This is Andy Purewal for Boxing Social in association with Betfred, and I'm delighted to be joined by Magic Matthew Hatton over Zoom. Matt, how are you doing?
I'm not too bad, thanks, mate.
Good to hear. Well, I know you had a good weekend, obviously, with Luke Evans' victory, so we'll just start off with that. Yeah, just talk me through Luke's win.
Yeah, I mean, Luke's been out of the ring a couple of years now, been well documented. He's had injury problems, he's had issues outside of the ring, but he's such a talented lad. Obviously, being from the local area, I took one of my boys sparring with Luke many years ago now. He was only 18, he just turned professional, and I was so impressed, and I've always liked what I saw with Luke. It's panned out that I'm coaching him now, which I am pleased about. And on Sunday, he boxed so well, 2.5 years out of the ring, boxed really well. You know what you're going to see with Luke is so technical, lovely ability, very pleasing on the eye. But, and the finish was absolutely brutal. I mean, for your boxing fans, have a little look, check it out. Luke Evans' fight on Sunday, because it was a phenomenal knockout. It really was. And just what he needed. Real good fight against a good opponent. Again, some great skillful boxing, which is what you get all the time with Luke. Very skillful, but again, a bit more killer instinct in him, and it was a beautiful finish. So I was really pleased with Luke.
Just with a finish, Matt, was it a surprise to you to see that type of killer instinct, as you've mentioned there, or has his time away from the ring just allowed his body to mature a little bit more despite his injuries?
It has, and I think sometimes when you spend a lot of time away from the ring, it can make you realise how much you actually want it, and that has been the case. And I've been training Luke about a year now, and I've made a few little adjustments technically, which has definitely improved him. But it's more a mindset with Luke. He's a very talented guy, but he does fall into the habit. He gets very comfortable in fights, and he stays comfortable. He doesn't push himself. I've watched him for some time, and I'm watching and thinking, yeah, it was nice, but get your foot down and make a statement and show what you can do. And that's what I've been drilling into him for the last few months now. And we definitely saw it on Sunday, so I'm pleased.
I imagine he'll want a quick turnaround to try and build a bit of momentum after his time out of a ring, Matt. So what's going to be the plan for Luke moving forwards for at least the rest of this year?
Well, I don't manage Luke. I only train him, and he's got a very good manager in Steve Wood. I know Steve has got something very exciting lined up for Luke. There's not too much you can say about it at the minute. All be revealed soon there. But yeah, he's going to be back fighting soon, and it's going to be something big.
Obviously, just moving forward and on to next week, the return of your nephew, Campbell Hatton. How's Campbell looking ahead of his 4th professional outing?
Campbell's looking really well. He's improving all the time in the gym, and I know I say this time and time again. And we've been seeing improvements on the nights of his fight as well. I don't think we're quite seeing what he can do fully yet. That will take time, but he's improving all the time in the gym. And again, Campbell's got a great work ethic. It's so refreshing. I know his family and he's my nephew, but it's so refreshing to see someone with that strong mind, no excuses, no dramas, does exactly what you want him to do, does everything you tell him, and he comes in and he trains and works hard every day. So he's looking really good.
Do you think people are starting to finally look at Campbell now and think, yeah, he needs his time, and they're not making the comparisons to his dad Ricky, to you yourself and what you guys achieved? Do you think people on the back of these first 3 fights have noticed it is going to be a long process for Campbell to eventually reach the heights that he wants to?
I think so, and he's very young, and like you say, the sort of pandemic sort of put us into this situation, turning him professional a little bit earlier than we would have done. And undoubtedly it was the right thing to do, because if he hadn't have turned professional, he'd have still been, what we're looking now, 2 years without a fight. Still the amateurs, he's just starting to get going now, so we could never do that. So we did turn him professional sooner rather than we'd anticipated, and we know it's going to be a process. He's not the most experienced. So yeah, I think people are gathering that now, but he's showing improvements, Campbell, and it's going to be a process. But he's getting better all the time, and I do think it is only a matter of time. Might even be in the next fight, or it's certainly going to be soon, where we see what he can do in the gym. It's just going to click on the night, and I think we're away. I think we'll have liftoff.
Is it building in Campbell's head at all that he's a bit eager to get a stoppage to his name, or has he not thought about it?
Well, I'm drilling that into him. It's all about winning, isn't it? But, he's a fighter and he's an aggressive fighter, an attacking fighter. And all fighters want that first stoppage. And, in his last fight, the first round, he was superb. He boxed really, really well. And if he'd have continued boxing like that, he would have stopped the kid. I've got no doubt about that. But it doesn't matter how many times you tell them before the fight. Sometimes they've just got to get in there, experience it for themselves. He was having success. He knew he was hurting the kid and he tried too hard. So, again, we're learning all the time. He's learning all the time. And I don't think he'll make that mistake again. But, I'm not concerned about stoppages or anything like that. Deep down, I know he's a fighter. We all want that first stoppage. But it's not long away now. And if he applies himself properly, he'll soon start racking the stoppages up.
He's only really been on big cards throughout his career so far, Matt. Despite again the pressures of the Hatton name, how good is that extra exposure for him to be on those cards, to be on the Anthony Joshua cards, the Dillian White card out in Gibraltar?
Yeah, it is great, but it's a big ask. With the big bills does come the big pressure. But at the end of the day, it's great experience for him. It's great opportunity. He's building his profile, and me as his coach, I just want him fighting regular and keep him busy. That's the main thing for me. It doesn't really matter what shows he's on to me, whether he's on the big shows or the small shows, that's all to come. But yeah, he's getting great experience. He's fighting on these big cards. And the reality is, these are the cards he's going to continue to fighting on. And if we want Campbell to be a big name in boxing and a big star, with that does come pressure. So I think it's better for him to experience that pressure. Let's get in the real world against opponents who, if he applies himself properly, he should be beating, as opposed to further down the line, which is the case for most fighters. Sometimes you get fighters who haven't fought on the big stage and it's a 50-50 fight, and then it is a big challenge, isn't it, physically and mentally. So, no, it's going really well. And me as his coach, I'm just glad he's fighting regular.
Just going to move forwards onto that main event, Matt. I'll obviously catch up with you next week at the show. Just to get your thoughts on Anthony Joshua versus Alexander Usyk. How do you expect that one to play out?
Well, I made no secret. I've always been a big Joshua fan. I always have. I know he's got his knockers. I'm certainly not one of them. I'm a big fan of Joshua. And when the fight was originally made, I expected him to win this fight. And I do still expect him to win this fight. But, it's certainly not a given me. And I think as the fight's getting a little bit closer, I am getting a little bit more nervous, to be honest, because, he's such a good fighter, Usyk. Great boxing IQ, so experienced. He's going to trouble absolutely anybody, isn't he? So he's certainly going to cause Joshua some problems. I anticipate a close fight, to be honest, a really nip and tuck close fight. But I do think AJ's size and strength will get to him. I do see it being he might even have to claw back a deficit. But again, if it was a betting man, which I'm not, I'd look for Joshua. Stoppage, maybe 8-9 rounds, but I think there's certainly going to be scares, and it's going to be a close fight. And don't even be surprised if Usyk's ahead in the fight.
That's something I was going to touch on. How important are those first, say, 3 or 4 rounds for either fighter? So for Usyk to get into a rhythm and to show his boxing skill set, or for AJ to prevent Usyk from being able to do so, to be putting his weight on him, to be pressuring him back. How important are those first 3 or 4 rounds for both of those guys?
Yeah, I mean, the start of a fight's always important. You always want to start the fight positive and sort of take the initiative from the first bell. But I anticipate quite a cautious start from both men. I don't think you're going to see both men rushing in. Certainly not going to see that from old Usyk. And Joshua's a very good boxer too. So I don't anticipate fireworks at the start. I think the fight will warm and get better and more entertaining as it goes on. It could be a bit of a chess match early on. But, inevitably it will liven up. And I think when it does liven up and the heat increases, I do think that will suit Joshua.
Only a couple of weeks after that, we see Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder complete their trilogy series finally. Also, wanted to get your take on that as a fellow Mancunian.
I can't see anything more than a Tyson demolition job. I really can't. And, Yeah, he's got a new trainer, Deontay Wilder. Can he really change at that age and box in a certain way for so? Wilder is what he is, isn't he? He's got tremendous punch power. He's always going to have a chance against anybody he's in the ring with. But again, just my personal opinion, I think we're going to see a downward trajectory now for Wilder. Personally, I think he's had his day. He's had his great moments. And I think a demolition job for Tyson. I really do. I can't see or anticipate anything else but that.
Tyson had a media day the other day and he called for a December bout with Dillian Whyte. What would be your thoughts if we saw that, and you'd hope we'd see that back here in the UK as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Tyson wants to keep busy, doesn't he? And he wants to fight regular. Dillian Whyte's a big name in domestic boxing. He's been knocking on the door now for a world title fight. He's got some great wins. So if Tyson comes through that, it certainly generate a lot of interest in this country, won't it? So yeah, I'd like to see that in December.
And then also just want to get your thoughts on Anthony Joshua's comments towards Tyson. Obviously, everybody wants to see that undisputed fight, hopefully early next year or whether it be middle next year, whenever it may be. But AJ said he would smoke Fury if the pair of them meet. What be your thoughts? What do you take from those comments?
Well, they both obviously want the fight, don't they? And I think there's a bit of animosity there between the two, which always spices things up and makes for an even better fight. But there's some interesting fights in the heavyweight division. We've touched on a couple there, the fight that's coming up. But the reality is we want to see them fight each other, and we're desperate to see them fight each other. A lot of people make Fury a favourite in the fight. I think it's a really tough fight to call. I just, like every other boxing fan, which is predominantly what I am, I just want to see it. And even though there's some interesting fights with them fighting other people, I'm not that. I want to see them fighting each other. And, where is it going to happen? I don't know. I think the longer it doesn't happen, makes it more and more unlikely. So, again, as a boxing fan, I just hope we don't miss out on this one. I really do.
Matt, as big Manchester City fans, let's say Fury AJ happened and it happened to take place.
Hey, I'm a Man United fan.
You're not? Oh, so I didn't know that. But okay.
You know what? It still shocks people to this very day that I'm a United. I've got to be honest. I was a few years ago. I used to have season tickets. Used to go home and away. But I have lost a bit of interest in the football. So I'm not a massive football fan, but it still hurts wearing Campbell's ring gear, and he's got that City badge on. I don't think I could go back to Old Trafford now, even if I wanted to, mate.
Well, I was about to ask, let's say Fury AJ happened and that happened to take place at Old Trafford. Would Campbell be knocking on the door to get on the undercard, or would he be one he'd have to kind of swerve?
Oh, no. Campbell would definitely. Hey, what an occasion that would be, wouldn't it? What an occasion that would be. And again, even though Campbell's a City fan, Campbell's got great support from City and United fans. And again, I'm just really looking forward to Campbell fighting in Manchester, because the demand to come and watch Campbell is huge, both from City fans and United fans. He's a proper Mancunian, and hopefully we'll get to fight at the arena soon.
Just the final one, Matt, before I let you go. Obviously, we saw a sad stoppage, really, of Evander Holyfield this past weekend against Belfort. Just wanted to get your take on seeing Evander stopped in that first round and seeing his comeback and what have you.
Upsetting, because Evander Holyfield still is one of my favourite fighters. As a cruiserweight, he was untouchable. He only moved to heavyweight to test himself. He was untouchable as a cruiserweight. So much heart, so much determination, an absolute warrior. And it's just so sad to watch. I think certain people need to hold him accountable there. It's not great for boxing, and for such a great name like him. Sorry, pal.
That's okay.
Yeah, for such a great name like Holyfield, it's just so sad, isn't it? You've got a 58-year-old man there. It's disgraceful, really. And I think something needs to be done. It can't continue, because something bad's going to happen soon if this trend continues. And none of us want that. None of us want that for this great sport.
Right, Matt, we will leave that there now. I'll leave you to get back to the guys in the gym, because I'm sure you've got a busy day ahead. I appreciate you giving up some time, though, and I will look forward to seeing you next week to catch up in person. Thank you for speaking to Boxing Social.
Anytime, Andy. See you next week, pal.